The Snowman. From a book of old-fashioned fairy tales and fables, by Chuma Ikenze. There once stood a snowman in the middle of a forest that was deeply covered in snow. He had no legs, and his eyes were made of coal. He always felt terribly cold. There was also a grumpy old icicle who hung down from a tree near the snowman. The icicle was much colder, but never felt cold. He thought himself normal, and often called the snowman cold, in a mocking voice. The snowman was more offended by the tone of voice than the fact that he was called cold. If he had legs, he would have moved as far away as possible from the grumpy old icicle. But he had no legs and had no choice but to stay put. However, he made up his mind never to speak to the unkind icicle. One day, the snowman heard laughter high above him. The sound came from the branches of an old snow-covered fir tree. As he looked up, he saw a beautiful snow-white fairy sitting high in the crown of the tree. The fairy was swinging on a branch and flapping her wings. As she did so, 1,000 little snowflakes fell like stars onto the snowman's head. The snowflakes landing on his head gave the snowman a strange feeling that he could not describe or understand. But it was a beautiful feeling. It made him so happy that he forgot his resolve never to speak to the grumpy old icicle. Turning to him, the snowman said to the icicle, "I feel wonderfully strange, but I don't know why or how to describe it. That means nothing to me," sneered the grumpy old icicle. This time, the snowman was not offended by the grumpy old icicle's rude remark, nor did he continue listening to him. Instead, he returned to looking high up into the fir tree, in whose crown the fairy swung, flapping her wings and sending 1,000 more snowflakes down to the earth. The more the snow stars settled on the snowman's head, the more he felt an increasing glow and longing in his chest. But a longing for what? He did not know. He thought and thought for a long time about what could be causing this wonderful sensation. Finally, he gave up and said to the fairy, "Snow fairy up above, why do I have this wonderful feeling mixed with longing when your snow stars land on my head? Surely you must know." But the fairy did not respond. She simply laughed with so much joy that the old fir tree shook all of its branches, letting loose even more snowflakes onto the snowman's head. As the layer of snow built up on the snowman's head, the intensity of his longing increased. He became so heated up that he thought he would melt. That wouldn't be nice, he thought to himself. He imagined his head melting, followed by other parts of his body. This thought made him shudder with fear, even though he liked the sensation caused by the snow stars settling on his head. With each new snow star that settled on his head, the snowman imagined that he was melting away and getting smaller and smaller. The burning longing in his heart grew brighter and hotter. It went on like this until Christmas Eve, when the angels usually cleaned the silver stars in the sky so that they would shine even more beautifully on Holy Night. As the shine of the stars became brighter, something very mysterious happened. The snowman felt himself actually melting on this coldest of nights. But he also experienced something even more wonderful. He saw as his old self melted away, and he was transformed into an even more beautiful snowman with limbs and the fanciest warm garments. The icicle was surprised to see the snowman melting, especially because it was such a cold night. But he did not see the transformation that was taking place in the snowman. All he saw was a melting snowman. This disgusted the grumpy old icicle because all he could think of was the dirty slush that would replace the melted snowman. And he did not like slush. But the snowman knew better. He now understood that the landing of the snow stars on his head and the burning longing that they caused in his chest were the beginning of his inner transformation. He also understood that he had to discard his old self in order to assume his new self. One thing he still could not understand was why the falling snow stars that landed on the grumpy old icicle did not have the same effect on him. Perhaps he was just too cold to feel anything.